The voicemail lasted only 11 seconds. At first, it sounded like static, the kind you hear when someone accidentally brushes their phone against a jacket. But then a woman's voice broke through the crackling noise, shaky and breathless, whispering one sentence that investigators would replay 4 years afterward. "Something's wrong with him." And then silence. No scream, no goodbye, just the sound of movement, like shoes dragging across concrete, followed by the voicemail, and cutting off so abruptly it felt intentional. When Ashley Elkins' family heard it for the first time, they all said the same thing. Ashley wasn't scared easily. Whatever happened in those final moments had terrified her enough to make her voice sound unrecognizable. The worst part, by the time anyone listened to that message, Ashley was already gone. Ashley Elkins had the kind of smile people remembered long after meeting her. Friends described her as loud in the best way, funny, stubborn, warm, the type of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and somehow leave with everyone's life story by the end of the night. She lived in Detroit, worked hard, loved her family fiercely, and carried herself with a confidence that made people assume nothing could shake her. But behind that confidence, Ashley's personal life had become complicated. Especially when it came to the man she kept trying to leave. His name was Jeffrey Beasley. And people close to Ashley said their relationship felt less like romance and more like emotional survival. They fought often, they separated constantly, and every time Ashley tried to distance herself, Jeffrey somehow pulled her back in. That at first, the warning signs looked ordinary: jealous phone calls, sudden mood swings, arguments that ended with apologies and expensive gifts. But over time, Ashley started telling friends things that unsettled them. Jeffrey would show up unexpectedly. He monitored where she went. He accused her of cheating constantly. Some nights, Ashley would vent to friends for hours, insisting she was finally done with him forever, only to answer one of his calls before the night ended. It became a cycle. People around her hated watching because everyone sensed the same thing. Ashley seemed exhausted, like she was carrying a pressure she couldn't fully explain. And then one evening, she told a friend something chilling. She said, "If anything ever happens to me, look at him first." The night Ashley disappeared started quietly enough that nobody noticed anything unusual at first. She had plans to meet Jeffrey after weeks of tension between them. According to two people who spoke with Ashley earlier that day, she sounded irritated but calm. One friend later recalled Ashley saying she just wanted closure. She was tired of the fighting, tired of the emotional chaos, tired of feeling trapped inside of the relationship that kept pulling her under. But there was also hesitation in her voice, like part of her already knew the meeting was a bad idea. Ashley had made plans afterward, 2 small plans, ordinary plans, the kind people make when they fully expect to wake up the next morning. Hours later, Ashley stopped answering her phone. At first, nobody panicked because Ashley sometimes disappeared for a few hours to clear her head. But then calls started going straight to voicemail, text messages remained unopened, her social media suddenly went silent. Friends began comparing notes, realizing nobody had heard from her since she met Jeffrey. And then came the voicemail. That strange, broken recording with Ashley's frightened whisper buried beneath static. Her family listened to it over and over, trying to understand what they were hearing in the background. Some thought they heard traffic. Others swore it sounded like water. But everyone agreed on one thing: Ashley sounded terrified. When police first questioned Jeffrey Beasley, he seemed strangely calm. He told investigators Ashley had left after an argument and stormed off on her own. According to him, their relationship had always been dramatic, and Ashley frequently ignored calls when she was angry. He spoke casually, almost dismissively, as if Ashley's disappearance were an inconvenience instead of a crisis. Detectives noted how little emotion he showed while discussing the woman he supposedly loved. But without physical evidence, suspicion alone wasn't enough. Ashley was officially listed as missing, and the search began. Meanwhile, Ashley's family refused to sit still. They drove through neighborhoods, checked hospitals, contacted friends, searched abandoned lots anywhere they thought she might be. Her mother barely slept. Her sisters took turns answering phone calls from reporters and detectives. Every unknown number triggered panic. Every rumor felt like a knife twisting deeper. Then investigators uncovered surveillance footage from a gas station Ashley visited shortly before disappearing. The footage showed Ashley inside the store, glancing repeatedly toward the parking lot, nervous, distracted. At one point, she looked directly behind her as though someone had just arrived. Detectives later noticed something else in the video. Ashley's hands were trembling. As the investigation widened, Jeffrey's behavior became harder to ignore. Friends told police he had a violent temper and a history of controlling behavior. Several people described seeing bruises on Ashley during the relationship. Though Ashley often brushed off questions or changed the subject entirely, detectives learned the couple had broken up multiple times before reuniting again, usually after explosive arguments followed by emotional apologies. One witness claimed Ashley once said she feared Jeffrey would snap someday. But fear inside relationships often lives in quiet spaces, hidden beneath normal routines and public smiles. By the time outsiders fully understand it, it's sometimes already too late. Then investigators discovered Jeffrey had been lying about parts of his timeline. Small lies at first. Conflicting statements about where he went after seeing Ashley. Contradictions about phone calls. Missing chunks of time he couldn't clearly explain. Detectives dug deeper into phone records and noticed something disturbing. After Ashley disappeared, Jeffrey's phone traveled through isolated industrial areas near the Detroit River, before eventually shutting off completely for several hours. When confronted, Jeffrey claimed his battery had died, but detectives didn't believe him. Not anymore. Days turned into weeks, and the city slowly began to accept a possibility Ashley's family refused to say out loud. Missing person posters faded under rain and sunlight. News coverage slowed. Tips dried up. But Ashley's mother kept pushing investigators, convinced Jeffrey knew far more than he admitted. She later said the hardest part wasn't the waiting, was imagining Ashley scared and alone somewhere, needing help while time slipped away. Every passing day deepened the dread hanging over the family like smoke. Then a search team made a horrifying discovery along the Detroit River. A body had been found. Investigators worked carefully at the scene while Ashley's family waited in unbearable silence for confirmation. The remains were badly decomposed, making identification difficult at first. But eventually, the truth arrived like a hammer blow. It was Ashley. The woman who had walked into that final meeting hoping for closure had ended up discarded near dark water, miles away from home. Detectives immediately shifted the case from missing person investigation to homicide. And suddenly, Jeffrey Beasley stopped looking like a concerned boyfriend and started looking like the center of something monstrous. The autopsy revealed details investigators kept hidden from the public for years. Ashley had suffered severe trauma before her death. There were signs of a brutal assault, evidence suggesting she fought desperately against her attacker. One detective later admitted, the crime scene stayed with him long after the case ended because of how personal the violence felt. This wasn't random, it wasn't impulsive. Whoever killed Ashley had been consumed by rage, and detectives believed that rage pointed directly toward Jeffrey. Still, proving murder in court required more than instinct. Prosecutors needed something solid, something undeniable. Detectives began reconstructing Jeffrey's movements hour by hour, tracing surveillance footage, phone pings, and witness statements. Slowly, a darker picture emerged. Witnesses placed Jeffrey with Ashley shortly before she vanished. Surveillance cameras captured a vehicle matching his traveling toward the area where Ashley's body was eventually discovered. Then forensic analysts found traces of Ashley's blood inside Jeffrey's vehicle. Tiny amounts, almost invisible, but enough to destroy the version of events Jeffrey had been trying to sell from the beginning. Even after the evidence mounted against him, Jeffrey continued insisting Ashley's death had nothing to do with him. In interviews, he portrayed himself as misunderstood, targeted unfairly because of their toxic relationship. But detectives noticed something unsettling whenever Ashley's name came up. Jeffrey rarely spoke about her like a grieving partner. Instead, he spoke about her like a problem, an obstacle, someone who embarrassed him. And the more investigators examined the relationship, the more disturbing stories surfaced from people who knew them both. One former friend described hearing Jeffrey threatened Ashley during an argument months before her disappearance. Another recalled Ashley crying after Jeffrey accused her of ruining his life. Detectives also uncovered evidence suggesting Jeffrey had been obsessively monitoring Ashley's communications in the weeks leading up to her death. Calls, messages, social media activity. It painted the picture of a man spiraling deeper into paranoia and control. But there was still one question haunting everyone involved in the case. What exactly happened during Ashley's final hours? The answer began emerging from a source nobody expected. Investigators re-examined Ashley's final voicemail using enhanced audio technology, hoping to isolate background noise more clearly. At first, analysts focused on environmental sounds, the traffic, movement, static, but then someone noticed another voice buried beneath Ashley's whisper. Faint, angry, male. The words were difficult to make out, but one phrase became horrifyingly clear after enhancement. You made me do this. The revelation changed everything. Detectives now believed the voicemail had captured part of Ashley's actual murder. But the twist that stunned investigators came next. Metadata from the voicemail showed it had not been sent intentionally. Ashley hadn't called someone for help. The phone had accidentally dialed during a struggle, which meant those 11 seconds weren't a goodbye. They were evidence, raw, accidental evidence recorded while Ashley fought for her life. As prosecutors prepared for trial, Jeffrey made a catastrophic mistake. While speaking privately with an acquaintance, he allegedly revealed details about Ashley's death that had never been released publicly. Specific details, the kind only investigators saw the Kiludno. Word eventually reached detectives, and suddenly, Jeffrey's carefully controlled image began collapsing from every direction. The prosecution built a timeline showing escalating obsession, mounting anger, and a final confrontation that turned deadly when Ashley tried to leave him for good during the trial. Ashley's family sat only feet away from Jeffrey as graphic evidence filled the courtroom. Photos, recordings, testimony. At times, Ashley's mother reportedly covered her ears to avoid hearing descriptions of her daughter's final moments. Prosecutors argued Jeffrey killed Ashley in a violent rage after losing control of the relationship. And when jurors heard the enhanced voicemail for the first time, the courtroom fell completely silent. Even hardened investigators later admitted that recording was one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence they had ever encountered, not because of what was said, but because of the fear hidden in Ashley's voice. Jeffrey Beasley was ultimately convicted for Ashley Elkins' murder, but the truth that emerged in court was far darker than many expected. Prosecutors revealed Ashley had been trying desperately to end the relationship permanently. She had confided in friends about feeling trapped, watched, emotionally cornered. The night she died, investigators believe Ashley confronted Jeffrey one final time, determined to walk away for good. But for Jeffrey, losing control over Ashley became something he could not accept. The argument escalated, violence followed, and somewhere during those final terrifying moments, Ashley's phone accidentally recorded the beginning of the end. What makes Ashley's case so haunting isn't only the brutality of the crime, it's how ordinary the warning signs looked from the outside. The arguments, the apologies, the promises to change. Friends later replayed old conversations in their minds, realizing Ashley had been quietly telling people she was afraid long before anyone understood how serious that fear truly was. By the time the truth surfaced, Ashley had already become another face in a story that should never have existed in the first place. And somewhere in an evidence room, that voicemail still exists, carrying the sound of a woman realizing too late that the person standing closest to her was the one she should have feared the most.